Ginny, Jane, thank you so much for the chance to chat with you. I really appreciate it.
Thank
Uh,
you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, pleasure.
it is wonderful, and Streams Flow is wonderful as well. It truly is. I was wondering for you both, what is it that excited you about the project?
Jane, you can go ahead.
Oh, um, well, okay, I'm gonna start from a sad point and then work up. So my dad had passed away just like 6 months prior, and so my emotions were still so raw, and I thought I need to use my art to put all this to good use. So a lot of it resonated with me. um Taking care of my dad, so for Diana's point of view, taking care of her husband, but also I was raised on a farm in a rural part of Ontario where we were very isolated, so there were a lot of similarities with the character and with the story. First generation Chinese trying to make a success with a family and a family business. And also just the thrill of working with other Asian, specifically Chinese, mostly Chinese artists was a big thrill for me to want to experience.
Yeah, for me, I was first generation Canadian. I'm the only one in my family that was born in Canada. So again, a lot of that story really resonated with me. And really up until this point, you know, I hadn't seen a story that wasn't, like a comedy about Asian families and their stereotypes. Like this was really, it was really nitty gritty about, Christopher references, eating bitterness. And for me growing up in this sort of half Chinese and half Canadian world, my family was always a lot of it was about saving face and
Mm.
just like, you stuff it down, because in front of people you want to be polite and quiet and cordial, but then there's that Canadian side of me that was like, you got to be loud and you want to be who you are. um so yeah, it just really spoke to me, and of course it was just super exciting to work with a mainly, again, like a Chinese cast, and even the crew was mainly Asian.
Mm.
Yeah, that was really really nice to see.
One of the things I love about this film is the importance of cultural perspectives within this world and the challenges of that. Certainly, we see that with these characters. Like, for example, line dancing is like Tai Chi for white people. I laughed out loud at that. These are great moments. Um, I'm wondering for you both, how did you connect with that sort of aspect of the story? Why was that so important for you?
Well, I'll just say that I'm a little older than Ginny because I play the older Diana. So I've been around, but like Ginny, I've had one foot in the east and one foot in the west. So
Mm.
we are living two different diasporas at the same time. So that's what how I connected, and in some ways, in terms of how Diana dreams about. I don't want to give too much away, but she dreams about doing something that's not stereotypical. And Diana, when she's younger, does the line dancing, which is, as you say, not stereotypical. But we're in this rural part of Alberta, and what is available to us? And that was how my life was like what was available to me when everything around me was not my culture. The only way I could get access to my culture tangentially was on the TV. So it was really interesting how I don't know for Ginny, but I know definitely for a lot of I'll just speak for myself. Just really, we have to make the effort to put our foot into the Western culture that we are part of. We have to make that effort to. My parents always told us to assimilate. So to the point where unfortunately I lost a lot of my language, but I've started to regain it again. So yeah, so I guess that was my way in. I'm just gonna pass it over to Jenny.
Yeah. For me, I found myself just gravitating towards the Canadian,
Yeah.
that Western world. That's what I was surrounded by. I think I purposely sort of pushed the Chinese side of me away, because I wanted to fit in with my peers. So, and it's sort of like the opposite. Like my family, I don't think there was ever an active push for me to assimilate. If anything, my mom was like, don't you understand? You're an Asian woman, like you're an Asian girl, like pull it back. And I was like, no. And I was always trying to like get away from that. But yeah, there's so many different aspects to that. Like with the line dancing, you know, when it's presented to me, I shy away from it because, I'm new to the country, as young Diana, and it's Gordon that gets me out. And I think that is just like, it's such a beautiful moment, for me. And then of course I know how to do it because, I've probably been practicing, I've probably been watching for such a long time, but afraid to try. But then, all I needed was that sort of invitation to join in, and I was there. So I think I connected with that a lot, just in real life as well. I was always trying to just get into the crowd, get in the mix.
Right, absolutely. One of the things that I love about this film is this back and forth between time as well. And you both, of course, are playing Diana. I'm just wondering for the two of you, did you get to have these conversations together, develop the character together? Did you have any time? Because you obviously you're not spending any time on screen together, but what those conversations were like?
Well, because this is an indie, time was of the essence. So we didn't really have time because a lot of times we were never scheduled on the same day. So there were no real opportunities. However, my first day of photography, Jinny was doing that line dance scene. And that's how I saw her and met with her and connected with her. And we talked a little bit, but there was just very little time. So we had to just, for me anyway, I had to just really trust Christopher Yip, who was our amazing showrunner, writer, director, to help us connect the dots. So I put full faith into the story and what he had shot already and his vision.
Yeah. And I, just to echo what Jane said, I think Jinny and Jane had like a moment together on set where we were able to connect just as ourselves. We never really had an opportunity to delve into the character. But again, Christopher he was always so crystal clear on what he wanted that we were able to just trust his guidance. But I also think that from young Diana to present day Diana, we were different people.
Yeah.
I always say it's sort of like the frog in the boiling water. It's like when I was young Diana, I was the frog, the water was nice and cool. I was splashing around, I was having a good time, and I didn't realize that it was heating up. But I think by the time that present day Diana was there, it was full blown. So the change in us happened, and I think it was clear. But again, Christopher his guidance was just, it was so clear, it was so easy to follow.
Wow, that image of the boiling frog, except I think in present day Diana's instance, she had to put the lid on top of that boiling pot. Like, yes, it was boiling, but she couldn't jump out.
She was keeping it together still.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great point because I love certainly the character journeys in this. The shift is very real and very honest. One of the things I thought was really interesting is the idea that pain has a purpose. I was just wondering if how the both of you felt about that. That's one of the lines in the script, that pain has a purpose. Do you agree with that, and if so, what would that be?
Well, for me, when you experience pain, you have a choice. You have a choice to endure that pain and carry on that pain, or you can say, I'm going to break out of it. I'm going to do something to relieve this pain. I'm going to try to eradicate this pain. So Diana does choose one of those options. Again, I don't want to give away anything, but that's what I think pain in real life for me is like too. For any kind of trauma, any kind of, trauma, we all have our choices. Do we want to just ride along with the trauma, or do we want to say, I need to get out of this spiral and live my life differently other than where the trauma is carrying me?
Yeah, for me, that question really brings me back to the concept of things happening to you versus happening for you.
Hmm.
So when you have the mindset, sort of like a victim mindset, where it's like something bad happens and, it's poor me, and I'm just like, this is how I'm going to be. And again, like Jane said, it's a choice to say, you know what, this has happened. What am I going to do about it? How am I going to learn from this? What are my choices, and what am I going to do about it? Yeah. So I think that really rings true in this scenario.
Oh, absolutely. And I think one of the things we see in these characters is the weight of shame. Every character is carrying that burden from often placed on by somebody else. And certainly the return home aspect brings a lot of these things to light. And early on, there's a line that says, the daughter walks in the house and says, "Junk, these are memories." Oh, I think it's your character actually. Is the Diana says, "Junk, these are memories." And I was wondering for you, what do you think it means to draw that line between the two, between junk and memories? What's the divider?
It's for me, again, the choice. Do we take things that represent, like, again, representing junk, or representing your heart?
Hmm.
Like the cowboy hat. It's a beaten up hat now, but it brings back and conjures up those memories, those emotions of the love that they had, the couple that they had Diana and Gordon had for each other at that time. And as present day Diana, just re-examining those things for herself, her memories, her love, for herself, for Gordon, for her family. So it's just it's not black and white, but it's just a way to look at those emotions for me personally. So I apply that to Diana's character as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I that's something personally I struggle with. I tend to assign sentimental value to a lot of objects. And I mean, I think that actually kind of stems from having an immigrant family as well.
Hmm.
Because there is sort of the reasoning of like the scarcity of, right, if I get rid of this now, what if I need it in 2 weeks, a month, 10 years, you kind of want to have that. But I think that that's the difference. It's like, does it conjure up, what kind of memories does it conjure up?
Hmm.
Because they're not always good. And sometimes we get hung up on reminding ourselves of the bad times, just as much as we do with the good times. And that's really, as they say, it's like some shadow work you got to do. Like, why am I hanging on to this? Because if I'm just hanging on to it because it reminds me of a time and it gets me fired up, for being, poor me or whatever it is, then, that's something you got to let go and sort of you got to forgive and forget. Because sometimes we like to be reminded of those times where we're like, oh, poor me. And for something like the cowboy hat, where it's really sort of, it's reminding you of how you got here, how Diana got to where she is right now. So yeah, that becomes, I guess for me, that's sort of the line that I'm trying to practice. Me as Jinny.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate the time with both of you. Thank you so much. The series is great. I wish you the best of the festival. And thank you so much for this conversation. I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks,
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah, thank you so much, Steve.
Don't worry, like you never stopped.